Look, I have an apology. I want to make a statement today because I got this lovely email to my business account and they wanted me to jump because they found out I like the film Martyrs. I just want to be upfront and honest with you guys. Unless it wasn't obvious, I like disturbing movies. Martyrs, a lot of people like, most people like. I have limits like everybody. Don't worry, I do have limits. But I thought today I would really expose myself by finally doing a top 10 of my favorite, most disturbing films. And the way I made this list, because it's really hard for me to narrow it down. I know, I need help. These are films I actually rewatch. They all vary in theme, tone, and even disturbing factor. They're in no particular order, but it's best to start with the one I've already been exposed for, which is Martyrs. Martyrs is a French psychological horror film that premiered in a French film market in 2008, where it shocked, offended, and caused walkouts. And this is no surprise if you've seen the film. The director confessed later that he wrote the script when he was dealing with his own depression and dark thoughts. The movie is about a traumatized woman who returns to the place where she was abused as a child with her new friend, who is also a victim of abuse. Now they plan to confront the family inside. And it is bloody, it's disgusting, and it has a purpose, believe it or not. It's a lot deeper than just some kind of gore torture film, but it does have alarming scenes and the brutality that unravels from that. This is a favorite among the French extremist horror movies, and I can see why. It's definitely one that I've rewatched time and time again. Not the remake. I have watched the remake, but it's not great. It has a powerful ending, and it is really horror pushed to the extreme. I would say the ending is something that sticks with a lot of people who watch the film, and I'd say waiting to the end, you'll see why it's talked about so often and referred to. But I'd also say there are some really alarming scenes throughout of self-harm, and those moments are very intense, bloody, gory, and expose all. I like this film because it is direct. It doesn't tiptoe around anything. It is action-packed, and it has a lot of raw emotion in it. I don't know if it passes the Bechdel test, but it kind of feels like it would, because it is about a strong relationship between these two women and how that is exploited by others in power. Terrifying watch, but a gripping story that is very powerful. I cannot believe this one only goes for an hour and 40 minutes because honestly, it is a journey film, meaning where you start is not where you end. It changes in tone, themes, turns into almost another genre at the end or another subgenre. It's a psychological mindfuck as well as being a physical and visceral one. Martyrs, I will rewatch forever. I love this film. Another one that I absolutely adore is Hard Candy. Patrick Wilson and Elliot Page. My God, what a film. You almost forget that Sandra Oh is in this movie as well, even though her role is very small. This movie is terrifying. It is about a child who is talking to a photographer online, and this adult meets them in this open public space. And what happens from there is this scary cat and mouse game where you're watching this child put themselves in the worst possible situation and you're not able to intervene. And even more terrifying, if you are a fan of this film, did you know that the screenplay was inspired by stories in Japan of schoolgirls meeting up with grown men for the same reasons we see in this movie, same motives. And it is a fantastic game of cat and mouse of whether Patrick Wilson's character, who he is, what his intentions are, and it really does the twisty-turny, as I like to say. It does the twist quite well. There are some horrific themes explored. It's not too graphic, but the gut punch it has and the way it can psychologically mess with the viewer from their perception of what is happening is masterful. But it is in the disturbing list for a reason, because it is brutal. It's brutal themes, it's taboo themes, and covering it again in an open way which doesn't mince its words. This is the reason I love art and I love film, because of its capability of tackling really taboo topics or topics we don't dare to talk about openly. And this film explores it in a very interesting and confronting way. If you haven't seen Hard Candy, watch it. You'll love it. If you like disturbing movies, I mean, you're watching this list, please watch it next. You will not be sorry. It's a fantastic film that I would recommend to anyone who likes disturbing movies. It's probably the film I've seen the most out of this list, to be fair. 13 is another favorite of mine. I have to say, this was one I probably didn't know what I was watching when I first saw it. I don't think that I realized the intent with how young I saw it. I was 13 when it came out. That actual year I did turn 13 and I watched it. And it does show why there needs to be some, some guidelines in terms of ratings, because I had no business. This one stars Holly Hunter, Nikki Reed, and of course Evan Rachel Wood. And it's also co-written by Nikki Reed. This is about a girl going through puberty and pressures from other people around her to change and explore her world and how she fits into it. And I'm putting it very nicely. There's substances, there's underage activities, adult activities that kids should not be participating in. And of course, petty crime, or just crime with everything that's happening with underage people. But the way it explores these topics from the point of view of the kids, it's very gritty. It feels like a strange underbelly kind of crime movie, the way it's stylized, but it's just the perspective of a teen. I don't know how it is for kids growing up now, but back then, if you're from a similar, I don't want to say upbringing, but a similar household, or have certain outside forces influencing you, it is such a bang-on representation or perspective from the other side. What your parents see versus what the kids actually go through and how they see life. When you're a kid, your brain isn't fully developed, and this film is very scary to watch as an adult. And it makes sense because Nikki Reed wrote this film from a lot of experiences that happened to her. It is a low budget film, and a lot of their costumes were just clothes they already had. A lot of the dialogue is improvised, so it just feels very real. I don't think that there is an adolescence film. I mean, there's a lot of Larry Clark movies that kind of hit this, but this brought that into the 2000s for me. I felt like I watched it for, I don't want to say for inspiration, but I watched it when I was a kid because I found it very relatable. And now it's almost scary to watch it back because you realize what was happening. Anyway, I love this film and I'll rewatch it until I die. I feel like so far I have mentioned films that I would recommend to everyone. The next one I know is hit and miss with a lot of audiences. It's Excision. I just find the whole idea of the way this film came together so interesting, but the end product is as well. I've done a whole video breakdown on this one a couple years ago. It's from 2012 and they call it a dark comedy, teen horror, or body horror. It's written and directed by Richard Bates Jr. and it stars Anna Lynn McCord, who has had a very interesting career, let's say that. The movie is basically about unchecked mental health. And again, another one that is a dark coming of age. I would say 13 is definitely a dark coming of age. This one is a very small snapshot and very tight in its perspective, following a disturbed girl going through puberty who is obsessed with the idea of going into the medical field and how her family, the school, her church, everything around her rejects her. It's like a femcel movie that isn't afraid to be a little bit kooky and funny at the same time. The film stars or has a cameo from John Waters. It's a very strange movie. It also stars Roger Bart, Tracy Lords, Ariel Winter, Matthew Gray Gilbert, Jeremy Sumpter, and it's just a very weird, gross movie to exist in the mainstream. And I think that there is a place for that. I think that that is important to have. I wouldn't say it's a very unique story, but the way it's put together is very offbeat. And I think it's really important to have films that don't quite fit the norm to push forward, to make room for other people to do the same. It's really important that we don't have all of the exact same beats we hit. The film does have a lot of fluids and it's pretty alarming. I think that the end pushes the envelope, although a lot of people say it's quite predictable. It's just a strange film about a really gross girl. And I'm just glad that this weird little film exists, and another one that I'll keep watching because I'm just not over how odd it is. I'll never get over it. I guess it's a good time to talk about the flip side of that, and one that is very socially accepted. May is still a disturbing film, and it's a freaking weird one too. It's quirky and weird and strange, and I love it. May is directed and written by Lucky McKee, and it stars Angela Bettis, Jeremy Sisto, and Anna Faris, of course. She is so strange in this movie. It is about a secluded veterinary assistant who's very much into arts and crafts and loves hanging out with her best friend, who is a doll that lives in a glass case. She's obviously had a very strange upbringing, and it's very much nature versus nurture, but also her social interactions. It's not like she wants to be alone. It's like society has made her another femcel. I'm seeing a pattern here. And I like this film because it shows, although May is seen as some kind of weak, meek, mousy woman, how people underestimate her, how people treat her, and then, you know, kind of good for her in a really fucked up way. I think it's really well constructed and it's just like an indie gem, but a disturbing film at that. And if you're looking for one for Halloween, this is it. It's a little creepy film that is sickly satisfying, I would say. I think the stakes in this one are pretty low because it's so quirky and offbeat. It doesn't feel grounded in reality. And that's what I really love about Anna Faris's character in this. If you haven't seen it, she is so strange and stranger than May herself. So it's just one of those films that you think about often, thinking, how did they come up with this and how did it come about? How did they get these actors together to play out this strange little fucked up story? Okay, so since that one is a little bit separated from reality, I thought I'd go into one of my more darker picks, and that is Bully. I don't know what it is about this movie. In fact, I think this was just happenstance for me because I had the DVD somehow of this movie and I watched it from when I was probably mid-teens to late. It's a Larry Clark film that is based on a true crime story about a bunch of teenagers who are bullied by one, you know, their pack leader, and they conspire to take him out. It is really disturbing. This one has a lot of assault scenes all the way there, every assault you can think of. It's really brutal, I'm not gonna lie. And the fact that it's based on a true story is a gut punch. The movie stars Michael Pitt, Brad Renfro, Nick Stahl, just mishmash of actors, to be honest. And it's told in a very Larry Clark style. A lot of you guys asked me to watch his films. I think I've seen, most of his famous ones I've seen, like Ken Park and obviously Kids. But this one is different. It's a little bit more grungy, very dark, cold atmosphere, and talking about the cinematography and the color grading. It's a very concerning film, but what I like about it is that the characters, the kids in this film, act like kids. And again, brains aren't fully developed and they make really strange decisions and choices. And it has a very gnarly effect on the viewer watching it play out, knowing it can't end well. I find this one keeps a lump in my throat, but there is something that has me rewatching it from time to time. Definitely one of my darker picks on this list. And it probably is telling that I rewatch a lot of these films that I watched as a kid. I guess that's why they're kind of my comfort disturbing films. These are ones I'm used to, but ones I return to because they've had a profound effect on me and my taste in film. And Bully is definitely one. I wouldn't say everyone's gonna love Bully. It is a gritty, I would say unsatisfying ride, one where you're forced to follow along these perpetrators and victims. And that is where the film works for me, because it's such a blurred line between the two. Okay, a newer film would be Killing of a Sacred Deer. This is my favorite Yorgos film to date. I absolutely love this movie and I don't know why I rewatch it because it is such a hard watch. I feel like we failed this film as well. I just don't feel like people talk about it enough for what a alarming portrayal that Barry Keoghan gives. He is a psycho in this movie and this was kind of my introduction to him. Along with Barry, this one also stars Colin Farrell and the great Nicole Kidman, as well as Alicia Silverstone. It is one of the strangest films about a surgeon who is pretty well off, has a beautiful family, beautiful kids, and then out of nowhere this kid enters his life and is looking for mentorship and somehow intertwines himself very intensely into the surgeon's life, so much that he doesn't realize what a grip he has on him. It is so strange. Watching this in the cinema and not really understanding Yorgos's style at the time was really interesting for me. He basically has his actors in this film, and some of his other films, but not all of them, but he has his actors play it out like nothing is a big deal and everything is a straightforward, dry comedy, while things that are completely terrifying are happening to the characters. So you're seeing them not really react in the way that you want them to react, which is unnerving, frustrating, and thrilling, completely thrilling. It is a dark journey. You'll want to watch this one going completely blind. I'm trying not to give you too many details on this one because there are some great turns. But Barry is fantastic in this film and you need to check it out. You need to watch it. It wouldn't be a favorite list of mine unless we had some Gaspar Noé, which I love him. I love him. And one I'm going to have to fess up to, and I think this is probably the most disturbing on this list, or it's deemed the most disturbing by society, is Irreversible. I love Irreversible. Look, I have watched this film countless amount of times. Love is my favorite of his films, but this one is the most disturbing by far. And I do think it is hard to rewatch only because of the spinning. Because of the cinematography, you know what's happening, and once you've sat through all of those scenes, yes, they are really hard to sit through, but you understand them. And the beauty of this movie, I am gonna stand by that. If I'm gonna make a video coming out and talking about how I like disturbing film, I'm standing by this film. I adore this film. I think it is genius. I'm so sorry, but the cinematography is a lot. So here's the hard part, because you have to sit through this film fully to appreciate it, and I don't want to spoil it for you. But the movie, if you don't know anything about it, it's told in reverse order. So each scene is before the last, but it's going in reverse. So the first scene you see is the last scene in the movie. There are copies and versions where you can watch it the correct way, but the whole point is that there is an act that happens. There are a chain of events that happen in this film that you lead up to find out why they're so brutal, because you've seen the first scene where it is brutal, and you're going backwards to go back into the scene where everything changes, and then you follow back to the start and you realize the relationships and how people intertwine in this story, and truly you end on this gut punch because you see how peaceful it all started. But the movie is about a couple who go out with it's a man and woman, and they go out with the woman's ex as well, and while they're out, something awful happens to her. I'm sure you know about the 9-minute assault scene that happens in this film, which is the worst part by far. It's a French film that has a lot to do with relationships and a lot of heavy dialogue in, I guess, the end half, which is the first half, but it's shot so beautifully, although it will make you sick for a number of reasons. There's just a hold that this film has on you that I just have to call it a masterpiece, because there is nothing else like it. It's a visceral experience that will make you feel sick just watching it, and mentally as well. I like film that pushes boundary and explores things in new ways, doesn't beat around the bush, as I keep saying, and this film doesn't. It explores it head on, and it is a lot for viewers, so I will warn you. But I don't think you should judge this film before seeing it, and I know a lot of people won't see it, and I totally respect that. I respect that. I'm just saying, this film, there's more than meets the eye, especially if you don't know the reveal at the very end. I've exposed myself a lot, but a director I do think is pompous, but I still like some of his work almost too much, is Lars von Trier. And I would say the work that I return to, both in my head, and I have a few times since watching it, just I think last year was my first watch, is Dogville. Dogville is a film I think everyone should watch once. What a fantastic movie. And this one is not too graphic. It's set on a soundstage, so it's a different experience entirely, where you're watching these actors play out without a full set, props. It's a stripped back look at this awful story. This is another one starring my favorite, Nicole Kidman, and she is at the center of this movie as a woman on the run who is accepted into this small community in exchange for labor, but she soon finds out that this town is not a safe haven. It's a disgusting movie about how a woman is brought in and mistreated by this town and held against her will. It is awful. There are some very intense assault scenes, but it is stripped back, so it is all emotional. And you'd think watching a film like this, it wouldn't be as psychologically effective as it is, but there is something about it that feels so real and really shows what great actors are on the stage and how they can transform nothing into something great and something that really sticks with you. And this was a gut punch. It's a really sad film, but really worked for me. And as much as his films, sometimes I just don't want to like them. I don't want to. I'm gonna be for real. I think he's so pompous in some of his movies. This film is great, and it really made me eat my words with a lot of things I said about him. Some of his work is great. I think he is a fantastic director, but he's one I definitely have a love-hate relationship with. If you haven't seen Dogville and it's missing from your catalog of his work, check it out next, because you'll want to return to it, or you'll be stuck there in your mind, which I feel like I still am, with the music running and the ending. And it's just all so awful. The last film I'm just realizing is another Nicole Kidman film, which was not my intention. Can you guess? Anyone? Anyone? It's Eyes Wide Shut, which is my favorite Stanley Kubrick film. I know I'm coming off a little bit pompous today. I'm aware. Well, when the email tells you to jump, you're going to jump all the way there. You know what I mean? But this one is my favorite because the performances are startling. I also love that there are so many different reads on this movie, and I feel like every couple of years when I rewatch it, I see it a completely different way. So the movie is Tom Cruise with Nicole Kidman, and he is a doctor that goes on this strange adventure, let's say, after his wife gives this insane confession of how she feels unfulfilled. It's known as erotic thriller. Of course, it's known for all of the cultish scenes, but the monologue that Nicole Kidman gives is one of the best moments in film history for me. It is fantastic, vulnerable, raw, and just so well put together. It's absolutely beautiful. It's so interesting how this film has changed over the years for people who rewatch it, because it is about this man's dying ego and what he battles through to try and fix it. And that's what the whole night is about. I love that it takes place over one night. Well, I guess that's how I see it. A lot of people see this very differently. I see it from Nicole's perspective, but I also just love the idea of him grasping, trying to protect himself through these words that cut so deep, and how that pushes him to do, I wouldn't say the unspeakable, but pushes him into the darkness for sure. It's a very strange mystery psychological thriller that I think says a lot more than what happens in the film. And I love everything about this strange, disturbing film, which is why I rewatch it. Some shout outs to some films I did not mention. Anything by Todd Solondz, especially Palindromes. People are gonna be mad at that. Funny Games, Mean Creek, Devil's Bath is a fantastic film that is slept on. I've only seen it a couple of times though, so that's why I didn't put it in this list. The Lodge, Saint Maud, if you're looking for more horror skewed ones, but I could go on and on. I just wanted to give you 10 films that I actually rewatched that I absolutely adore. And hopefully there's someone here that I haven't spoken about before. These are the solid ones I stand behind. And if this person is watching, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for letting me be a little bit of a troll today, I guess. But I did owe you this video of giving you a top 10. And I think it's important because then you know my taste and you can apply that to whatever I recommend. Because of course we all have different tastes and we all have different lines. And I hope you enjoy mine. Thank you so much for being here. If you do like these kinds of videos, if you like me talking about disturbing films and horror films, which I do very often, please think about subscribing. I would love to have you here, and I'll talk to you all very soon. Stay safe and stay spooky. Bye, friends.